Welcome back to Let's Write. We are currently in an off week right now. We're in between treatments, but we didn't want to let our writing muscles atrophy too much. So wanted to hop on the mics with the new little game that I think we're calling speed pitching. It's like kind of like
Sure.
speed dating, but
It's not
we're
very catchy,
pitching.
but sure.
We'll write a better
Workshop
name
it.
next time. Basically, the concept is we've had a couple of our friends put together some kind of a flashcards with concepts on them for potential movies. Just I don't know, like brands and IPs and things that could potentially be adapted or changed or re-edited into new movies. We're gonna take a card each, kind of read it to the other person, and then see if we can figure out a concept for a movie in the first 5 or 10 minutes or so.
Mhm.
And I think goes without saying, most of these ideas will be pretty bad, but we're gonna try our best and give it a shot. Julian, you want to start us off with a first card there?
Sure. You want me to read to you?
Yeah.
All right. So, Ryan, Ryan, your topic is the Power Rangers.
Just Power Rangers? Just Power
says,
Rangers?
It says Power Rangers. Okay, I'll add a stipulation to it.
Yeah.
I'll put a spin on it for
Okay.
you. If the Power Rangers movie that we got is our Tom Holland Spider-Man,
Okay.
what is the Into the Spider-Verse version of the Power Rangers movie franchise?
Oh my God. Okay. Okay. So I think that the easiest answer would be let's just throw all the seasons in together, like characters from each season kind of intermingling.
Sure.
I think that's less fun though, because I feel like we've already seen that. They've done episodes where like the Power Rangers have crossed over.
They are the most fun episodes, though.
Okay, fair. But I think it'd be much wilder, like maybe worse movie, but a much wilder movie if it was like the Power Rangers iterations, like one or more of those seasons being thrown or having the other universe thrown into them of the original like Sentai shows, like the Super Sentai Rangers,
Oh.
all of the shows that they were based on, because they would have the same costumes, but they'd be different people. So it's like the
Ah.
same version of the Red Ranger in costume, but like out of costume, they're two very different people.
That's
Like
cool.
them having to interact and like fight a big monster or whatever it is, like some kind of existential threat to their shared universes. And so
That
we
is
get
cool.
two kind of cinematic universes, continuities, whatever, being mashed together, and then real like counterpart sort of storytelling there.
That's interesting. I like that. I think you could definitely do something like that because they're in the comics right now. The Boom Studios comic series, which is great for anyone who hasn't read it and is a Power Rangers fan. They're in this arc called the Shattered Grid, and I'm not quite there yet, but from what I understand, it's kind of like pulling Power Rangers from various time periods and ages together. So I think you could use a similar story device to draw the original Sentai shows into the continuity, or vice versa, into the continuity of each other.
Sure.
I think that'd
And
be really fun.
I'm not like super well versed on like the Super Sentai kind of chronology or continuity or,
Yeah.
or what kind of which ones fall into that continuity. But I imagine because the American versions, the Saban versions, actually just lifted the footage from those shows, right, for the
right.
action sequences. That is kind of a weird twist that their fights were exactly the same in
yeah.
story.
Yeah.
But in between those, I bet you the storytelling was very different.
Oh
Like,
man.
Their arcs and their people and their interactions and even probably characters and stuff. Because I think what's the name? Skull and
Bulk and Skull.
Bulk
yeah.
and Skull, right? Like they're
Yeah.
not in the Japanese
Right,
version
right,
because they're in the
correct.
live action of
Yeah.
the Saban version. Like who is their equivalent or was their equivalent? Like I think there's something interesting there. Like their battles were the same, but their lives were very different.
And as a result, maybe the characters would like almost know each other's weakness. Like they would know each other's strengths and weaknesses. 'Cause the
Right.
same. They're mirror images. And when
Uh-huh.
they're in Ranger form and they're fighting, they're like, oh shoot. Like if they have to fight against each other or something initially, they would have that thing where they're like, I can't beat you because we're exactly the same. Every move I make,
Right.
like
Yeah.
it would be that fun little.
And I'd love to do like like the Into the Spider-Verse where they have like those, they get the shakes because they're in the wrong universe. but,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
kind of like vibrates and like, oh, we see like that fight scene, but then it's the Red Ranger from the American version. Oh no, it's the Red Ranger from the Japanese version, and like they're kind of both existing in that same space together, and like I think there's something fun there.
That is so cool.
Okay.
And then like the maybe the central thrust of the plot is like one of the universes are collapsing in. Like there can only be one. Like they can't exist
Oh,
simultaneously.
like a
So
straight versus movie. Okay.
So they're head to head or they're being put head to head by some villain who's trying to collapse the universes.
Uh-huh.
That could be kind of interesting.
That's cool. Okay.
That's a
I
fun
like
topic.
it. All right.
I like that.
All right.
All right, hit me.
All right, Julian. Got for you. Let me hear your best take on a Tamagotchi movie.
Oh God, that's a great idea.
Is it?
Yes, it will be in a second. Okay, Tamagotchis.
What do we know about Tamagotchi? Like
It's a pet.
the toy,
It was like a toy.
right?
Yeah, it's just a little egg, and it had a screen, and it was a pet that you would feed
Mm-hmm.
and keep.
And I do think in like the lore or something, they're aliens or something, right?
Is that what they
I
are?
think so. You're adopting like an alien pet.
Yeah, I never
Okay.
really knew much about the lore. I had one for a brief period of time. I just don't remember.
I think that was the extent of it.
Yeah, I think it's got to be a situation where, ooh, maybe it's a Digimon situation
Uh-huh.
where the kid gets sucked in to the world of the Tamagotchi, and you could have a really that could be a opportunity to do sort of a Spider Verse reimagine, like a brand new art style that we've never seen
Mm-hmm.
on the screen, something in like that flat 2D kind of pixel craft art style,
Interesting.
and you could maybe have sort of a Wreck-It Ralph situation where like he's in the internet or he's in the
Uh-huh.
device
Uh-huh.
and he's trying to figure out how to get out of the device or something, and he meets his Tamagotchi pet, and like I think that's the only that's the in I'm thinking of right now. That doesn't seem very clever to me
What
though.
if I threw it back at you and it's what if the Tamagotchis aren't good? What if they're evil?
Oh,
What if it was like a plot that like you had to they were like these like digital monsters sort of things and like whoever made Tamagotchi was trying to get you to feed them and take care of them so they could
oh,
invade.
oh, so it's like an alien invasion story.
Yeah, and like they finally have enough Tamagotchis that we raise collectively as a species that they're like invading our world.
That's actually pretty genius. If there was an alien, if you were gonna conquer the Earth, maybe it's an alien race that is not very physically adept. You know, like
Mm,
their tool of war is not physical attrition,
uh-huh.
but rather like infiltration of society. And so they would have infiltrated through this technological fad. They would have
Uh-huh.
infiltrated the minds of the youth and taken control of them that way. And then you get kind of like a Gremlins thing where they're like feeding these things, and then
Right.
actually,
Maybe it's like low res and pixelated because the actual creature is like horrifying. It's like it
yeah,
makes you feel bad for them, like oh my poor Tamagotchi, but
yeah,
it's just like horrible monster.
I love that.
You're feeding and raising, and then comes to kill you.
And then they erupt into the world in the final battles, like this super gritty U.S. Army versus the Tamagotchi.
Tamagotchi. I kind of love that.
Oh my god! And then the second one, oh my god! And so the Tamagotchi movie ends with the world collapsing to the Tamagotchi
Uh-huh.
invaders,
Uh-huh.
and and then it's just the new Planets of the Planet of the Apes trilogy, where the second one is like there's a couple of there's a group of human survivors left, and then the third one is like the last stand of the human survivors before they're completely usurped by the Tamagotchi.
Oh man, I love it.
And then there's a rogue faction of Tamagotchi that are trying to help the humans. You just totally steal the Planet of the Apes.
Let's just take the script and we'll cross out every time they say ape and replace it with
Yeah, place it with
Tamagotchi.
Tamagotchi. I love that. That's actually a really smart take on the mythos.
All
Okay,
right.
that's fair. That's not my best pitch, but like, whatever.
All right, all right. Let's what do you think our best take on a King Kong kids movie would be?
King Kong kids movie. Well, this is interesting because they're apparently making a Mario movie, right? With Illumination.
You're thinking of Donkey Kong.
Oh, I am thinking of Donkey Kong. Just kidding. King Kong, a kids movie. Okay, so the lore of King Kong, for the most part, I'm not like super deep into that lore, but it's basically like he's this last vestige of a race of like these giant
Apes,
beings,
yeah.
and in most. I think in most of his interpretations, he comes from Skull Island. That's a pretty
Right, right.
pivotal part of the lore, and they bring him to the
New York, I think,
New
in
York.
most
Yeah.
iterations, yeah.
So I wonder if you did like I wonder if you did a version that was a little bit less intense like that and a little bit more like Dumbo esque.
Uh-huh.
Like maybe
Uh-huh.
he's brought in as a circus
Right.
animal, and he's befriended, like a kid befriends him.
Okay.
And then is with him as so maybe we like kind of play with the continuity a little bit, and it's like not that he didn't grow up to be King Kong
Mhm.
on the island. They got him early from the island, or he's a offspring of King Kong,
Okay, yeah.
and they or a member of the same species. They grabbed him early brought him to be in part of this mega zoo that's being built
Hmm.
at some point in the future, and kind of a Jurassic Park style zoo.
Okay.
And a kid befriends him as a youngster, and you kind of follow the life cycle, and it's a little bit more of like a
It's like a Clifford the Big Red Dog sort of situation.
kind of,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, and then maybe, yeah, maybe I don't know what the conflict would be,
Hmm.
but maybe that's a different take on it, where it's a little bit more wholesome,
Right.
and it's a little bit more like you're through the eyes of the kid and the
Uh-huh.
and his friend.
I kind of like the in the old Clifford cartoon and I guess the books and stuff that he's this like massive terrifying beast,
Yeah,
but like everyone in the town is just like, yeah, that's just Clifford. Like
yeah,
they
that's
don't
fine.
they just completely accept that reality,
Yeah.
and he just gets in mischief because he's so big.
So then maybe he's not even part of the mega zoo initially. Maybe he's just like the pet of this.
I mean, he's just a monkey, just
Yeah.
kept growing. He's just
And maybe that's the conflict, as he gets taken by
uh-huh. Oh
this
yeah, the zoo is the bad guy.
industrialist who wants
Right.
to include him in this mega zoo that
Oh,
he's
that's
building.
good. Yeah,
That's pretty good.
that's great. I love that.
I haven't seen the movie, but I kind of feel like that's just the plot of, is it Okja? Okja?
Oksha. Yeah, I guess so. I think Oksha they wanted to eat or something, right?
Oh, they wanted to eat it. Okay,
It's
so
like a
we're
meat
okay.
product, but yeah,
If we do
kinda
mega
like that.
zoo,
Yeah,
yeah, we're okay.
something like that.
Okay,
That's great. I
that's
love
pretty
it.
good. I like that. All right, next one. All right, your topic. Excellent, I drew two. Your topic is. Wait, I can't. Oh, the card just says Jigglypuff.
Just Jigglypuff.
So here,
Okay.
I'll amend it. This is Detective Pikachu has come out. It's been wildly successful. They've announced several spin-off films, including Pokemon Presents Jigglypuff.
Okay.
Go.
So the Pokemon Jigglypuff live action Detective Pikachu cinematic universe
Takes
sort of
place
thing.
within the Detective Pikachu
Okay.
cinematic universe.
So I'm gonna go out here and say like there's a lot of great cinematic universes out there. Marvel, Star Wars, DC. Like everyone's making their own cinematic universe. No one has been bold enough yet, and we could be the first ones to just straight up make an entry in their canon be a musical. Just full on musical, live action, dance numbers, huge, just an absolute spectacle, but completely set in continuity in story. And it's a canon entry that you have to watch to understand the rest of the movies. I just want the rest. I just want the entire fan base to be obligated to watch a musical.
Then maybe it's like this intense the musical is the struggle of this Jigglypuff who keeps putting people to sleep but really wants to be a star.
I think it's A Star Is Born, but Jigglypuff.
But Jigglypuff. That's incredible. They should do that. That's like a beautiful spin in a world where they're spinning off, because they're not
Mhm.
doing Detective Pikachu going like, this is a one-off and we're never gonna make another, like, this is clearly a franchise starter.
Uh-huh.
That seems like a great logical area to go, is musical. You're right, no one's really explored that.
Yeah.
Like out and out. But like, how do you do a musical when all she sings is the same one song?
Mm. What if you took it from the Jigglypuff's perspective? So you see kind of two perspectives, like in the same way, like Detective Pikachu, like he goes Pika Pika, but like in his head, he's actually saying words and
Words.
stuff like that. What if it was the same concept, like just continuing that trend of like Jigglypuff only sings one song, but in her head, it's this elaborate, amazing, like incredible musical number that every time it's an original song that she's composing, and she's not getting credit for it until she meets the one kid who can understand her singing and has to translate that to the masses. And what if this kid is like to help make Jigglypuff a star, like she's taking Jigglypuff's songs and like translating to human and like becoming a pop star
Becoming
because
a
of
pop
that.
star, yeah.
And there's some conflict because as friends, like, oh, the human is taking credit for the Jigglypuff songs, and maybe she's getting too big for her shoes, and doesn't remember that her roots were this Jigglypuff is creating all this beautiful music for her, and she's forgotten that friendship.
That's kind of amazing. That's actually a great. I'm getting a little emotional. That's like a really good story. And I also love that it would, and I would hope they would, like in this universe. I like the idea that all their films would, at their core, have a Pokemon who it appears to all humans as a Pokemon, but to one human, like
Right.
every movie would
One
have that
special human.
relationship. That'd be really cool.
Hmm.
Because then you could do one like a Eevee movie with and like the Eevees being pressured into being different, evolutions, and he doesn't want to be, and he can only talk to the one human, and the human's being bullied because he needs to go be something, and he doesn't want to be that thing. The parents want to be a doctor, and he doesn't want to be a doctor. And like you could do a Psyduck movie, or like you could do that. He could hinge a lot of different spin-off films on a relationship like that, where only one human understands the Pokemon.
Wow. It's all about communication.
I think that's really cool.
It's deep.
That's a really good idea.
All right. All right. Let me hit you. I don't know if you played this game, but if you
Okay.
have,
Okay.
I think this is a solid idea.
Okay.
What do you think a Rocket League movie would look
I
like?
have played that game.
Excellent. Okay. 'Cause
I
I'm
love that
excited.
game.
I'm excited to dive into this one.
I'm a big fan of. I'm a soccer player, so that was obviously I had to play that game
Mhm.
right away. Um, I don't think you have to bend and be too clever with that one. I think that one can kind of just be. Actually, how funny it would be if it is exactly what it is, and the cars are being driven by. This is like we're in the future,
Yeah.
and this is the sport they play,
Yeah.
and they're just straight up drivers driving in a course, and it's a giant soccer, and it's just played completely straight. Like it's like this is what you do.
Yeah.
It's a giant soccer ball. Like no one's laughing at it. In universe, it's 100% serious, and it's kind of a. Either that or it could be like a Tron-esque game where
digital. Okay.
you're digitally put into the car,
Interesting.
and it's just taken over the world. It's the biggest sport in the world.
Okay. If it was a physical one, are you imagining it more like it's like a kind of speed racery, like it's very extreme sport, but also like it's safe and it's like it exists within a real world, or is it like more of like a Alita, like a death race sort of like this is like a murder sport, like it's in kind of a dystopian sort of world where people die in this and we're okay with that for some reason.
Here's my pitch.
Yeah.
Not the death murder version.
Okay.
And the reason is I think you can make a compelling drama, and you can have a compelling central conflict without death being a consequence. I think there are cool. This happens a lot in anime, and it's like a narrative conceit that I actually really enjoy because it facilitates both action and character development without needing things to be too super serious. And it's the conceit of the World Tournament or the World Expo.
Okay. Yeah.
So it happens a lot in Dragon Ball Z, and some of the best Dragon Ball Z arcs are actually based around the tournament. Like the Cell games is widely considered one of the best arcs. In that case, the stakes were the death of the world. But they in a lot of the early Dragon Ball too. And I'm saying this because I think you're not super deep in the Dragon Ball lore.
Right.
Just anyone who doesn't know, like pretty much most of a lot of the Dragon Ball series was the World Martial Arts Tournament. Like that was a big chunk where Goku fought Piccolo and Goku fought Krillin, and it was a lot of that. And so what they've actually done in Dragon Ball Z is, and not to get too sidetracky, but just a lot of Dragon Ball Z was a lot of dramatic world-ending arcs. With Dragon Ball Super, the new series, they actually got it back to a point where it was a martial arts tournament again. And a large part of the arc was it was a martial arts tournament between different universes in the multiverse. So they brought warriors from different multiverse universes together, and the stakes were also high, but like there was a sense of fun to it. And Dan and I were just watching My Hero Academia, and we've been getting into that. And a big arc that they had in the second season was they call it the sports festival, where all the kids compete. And that's where like pro heroes gets to see them and decide like, oh, I'm like, it's kind of like scouting, right?
Yeah.
And so there were it was all within their high school. It's all, contained and safe and stuff. And they have like measures in place to make sure the students don't kill each other. And it's all great. But they were able to mine like amazing character drama between these matchups between these kids. And they were able to really get that sense of like a teenage emotional drama and stakes, because to them it's like the end of the world.
Love this. It's not a movie, it's an anime series. It's 100% Rocket League the anime.
Yeah.
It's 100% anime series.
Yes.
And I think like I feel like a lot of those anime series, like where they have like the school competition sort of things, like they're really good with like the theming. Like it's ridiculous and it only works in anime, but like Kill la Kill, they'll be like, this is the tennis team and they use tennis weapons, things like that. I think it's so fun to see each of these like squads that they're up against, like their cars are like totally themed for theirs. Like, oh man, this is the death metal group and they're like rock band sort of like equipment. Like this is the rich people's group and they got these like nice little like Porsche looking like cars. And I think our heroes are like the scrappy underdogs, and like a big component of the story is probably like them building and maintaining and customizing their cars. And in Rocket League, there's all those power-ups and things like that. That's like them like getting or learning or attaining like new kind of weapons and power-ups that they can use in these fights to like win the grand tournament.
I'm so into this. Can I pitch you something? Just because it's anime. Do you know what has to happen?
What happens?
Is our primary hero has to be a kid who's grown up dreaming of being in the Rocket League for his whole youth, and he has to find a beat up, what appears to be old car
Yep.
that's actually one of the most special cars ever made.
Yep.
And it's like a bumblebee, and he bonds with it, and they start winning.
Oh man.
That's because that's
Yep.
every
Yep.
anime. You know, it's
Yep.
like Gundam Wing,
Yep.
Zoids, like everything follows that where the
it's
kid
so
bonds with the
Yep.
special,
Yep.
creature.
And it like gets him into the tournament.
Yeah.
But, like everyone looks down on him.
Yeah.
Like, he has to like prove himself. Like, oh
And
yes.
he
yes,
joins the team. He joins the
yes,
scrappy team.
Yes.
And they have to take down like the Dark Fates or something, and they're like these intense, like some ridiculous anime,
What a great series.
like Team Dark Fate team or something. Like it's like it's some weird naming convention. Man,
Love
that is
Yeah.
a really good pitch.
Rocket League, the anime.
We should make that poster.
I'd love to see that poster.
I think we should.
Yeah.
If there's one thing we take from this episode,
Uh-huh.
it should be the rocket. Well, so far,
Yeah.
that's the best thing we've come up with, I think.
I want to see that.
Okay.
I want to see that poster.
Did you just pick one, or did I? Was that you?
That
That
was
was your pick. Okay, so I'm going next. Oh God. Okay. This is also a game. Probably not going to lend itself unless you're really creative to some sort of advanced, extensive mythology. But this is Fruit Ninja.
Fruit Ninja. Oh God. All right. So like link up. Okay. So the Fruit Ninja is a mobile game, right?
Correct.
And you effectively like a bunch of fruit gets thrown at you, right?
Yes.
And you like are a ninja that you're like slicing through them.
Correct.
Right. Okay, man. That's tricky because there's one, there's no story. And two, there's not even really a ninja because you are the ninja, right?
You are the
So
ninja.
there's no character.
Right.
All right. What if it was like a cloudy with a chance of meatballs sort of world?
Okay.
Where like something happens, some horrible science gone wrong or something, and all the food starts to come to life. And the only person who can stop them is this up and coming ninja or something like that. So this is a kids animated movie, but it's this like a Shaolin trainee or something, or a ninja recruit, or maybe it's just a kid who likes pretending to be a ninja. Oh, that's it. It's in like a suburban neighborhood environment, and our hero is this outcast misfit kid because he's obsessed with old kung fu movies, and everyone else thinks he's super weird because of
Uh-huh.
it. But when all of this food starts to come to life and attack everyone, he's the only one who can save them by putting to work all of this knowledge that he's accrued from watching thousands and thousands of hours of these old kung fu marathons on TV. And he recruits all of his friends and he trains them, and they all become like the characters from these movies to take down this horrible fruit plague that is taking over their neighborhood.
Billy Bonsai is sing, sing, sing. Watch the watermelon. The Fruit Ninja.
Oh man. Okay. I might watch that.
That's a pretty, and you make it really, forgive the pun, pulpy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like it's really,
God damn it.
it's really like 80, like synth score.
Yeah.
Like really kind of like that 80s vibe of like when those kind of 80s films with the kid that was the protagonist,
Mhm.
and it, you could buy into it. You just kind of like, you kind of suspended your disbelief a little bit and just let the kid be the protagonist, and like that this is all it's
Yeah.
like what was that movie, The Last Starfighter, or the last
Right.
like
Last Starfighter,
that kind of vibe,
Mhm.
like just a
Mhm.
pulpy 80s
Right.
kid like thriller action movie.
Yeah.
That's a
And
good
it's
pitch.
a little emotional too, like maybe
Yeah.
we have a scene where like it shows like, oh, his parents were never around, so he's raised by these like kung fu movies
Yeah.
on late night TV, these marathons that ran, and now he's putting that knowledge to work to help his neighbors
I
and
love
friends.
that. It's kind of Gremlins vibe,
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Totally.
Definitely a little nostalgic.
Yeah.
We're gonna do this one, but I think eventually, maybe building off of this brainstorm, I want to do a full episode on this.
Okay,
This is a good one.
good.
Can you pitch me a Last Airbender movie that isn't an affront to humanity?
Oh,
The bar is set low,
Okay,
but I'd like
sure.
you to shoot high.
Sure. And would it follow? Do you think it would follow the story of the first season, the first iteration of Last?
Maybe.
Like,
I mean, like,
1, 2, 3 seasons, 1, 2, 3.
let's think about it for a second. Like, do you think, and this is an open question, but do you think fans would rather see an adaptation of like some portion or all of the original Last Airbender, or would it be more exciting for them to see a new story in that universe? And I don't know the answer because I think both would be very exciting for me.
I think. I mean, I think fans would love to see a well done live action
Sure.
adaptation of the story, like kind of beat for beat. I know that as of this moment, at least, Netflix is doing that in a live action series, which to me is probably the best way to do that. Like to do it in a Netflix style 10 episode series per season. That's probably the best way you're going to be able to do it. Can we instead talk about a live action story that took place in the period of time between the end of Last Airbender and Legend of Korra?
Oh, I like that a
Like, can we
lot.
just skip 10
Yeah.
years and like Aang is, 35, 40 year
Right,
old
right.
Aang?
Yeah.
So not like old man Aang, although that's a great comic book.
That's not bad too. Yeah.
Old
That's
man
actually
Aang.
pretty great.
But can it be like a 40-year-old Aang
Mhm.
and a 40-year-old, 40, let's say like a 30-year-old, so he's still kind of spry.
Uh-huh.
Because okay, at the end of the anime series, I mean, we're to assume he's like 16, 17,
Yeah,
right?
he's young.
Yeah.
And we know he lives a really full life.
Yeah, he lives for a
Yeah.
long time. So let's go to like 30-year-old Aang,
Uh-huh.
35-year-old Aang. Zuko's like 40, Katara's like 30 something, Sokka's, whatever. They're all
Yeah.
like, and then they're going to have some sort of conflict that they have to deal with.
Mhm.
Um and perhaps it is the beginnings of industrialization, because by the time
Right.
we get to Korra, the world is pretty well industrialized.
Yeah, at least that city, right? Republic City.
Yeah, Republic City. So I mean, maybe there's some conflict there with the beginnings of an anti, because the first season of Korra is all about that anti-bender movement.
Right, right.
Is it? Are we? I haven't seen the season 1 of Korra in a while. Is it? Is that the beginning of the anti-bender movement in that season, or has it been around for
I
a
think
while?
it's been around for
getting
a little
popular?
bit, and it's starting to gain traction and become real dangerous.
Because maybe that's the central conflict of
Mhm.
that series, is like they're starting to deal with that the world is advancing, technology is
Mm.
happening, like
That's
people are
interesting.
starting to take bending into their own hands, and it's kind of like, what do I do with this as the Avatar?
Mhm.
I think that could be really cool.
Could I hot potato something to you really quick? That's
Yeah.
like this isn't the pitch because this isn't Last Airbender. It's not even Avatar. But I wonder if there was a story to be told in the Avatar universe of benders who are not the Avatar. Because I think we've had two story arcs that both the central protagonist is capable of or learns to wield all four elements.
Sure.
I'd love to see a group of like four individuals who can individually utilize one of the elements and have to come together in a way that allows them to, utilize that power and combine that power.
That's cool.
Because I think I love the sequences from Korra of the pro bending matches.
Sure.
Where you'd have a water bender, you'd have an earth bender, you'd have a fire bender,
Sure,
whatever.
sure.
Like as members of your team, I'd love to see just like how those individuals combine their powers and fights and whatnot to create something interesting.
That's cool. I like that. I can't remember where I heard this, but somebody was talking about in an interview. Someone was asking what could you do with if you were handed like the reins to like one of these popular franchises, like a Star Wars or a Star Trek or whatever. And the person said like, there's a remarkably narrow scope in the stories that are being told in these universes that are so vast.
Right.
And their example was like, for example, what would it be like to see the SEAL Team 6 of the Star Trek universe? Which, interestingly enough, they announced is actually kind of happening now, I guess, with the series that they greenlit around Michelle Yeoh's character from Star Trek Discovery. But I thought that was a cool example of like, yeah, you're right. Like, what would like if we just completely went left field of like the usual following the Enterprise and the Federate? Like, what happens if you went to a different corner? So I like what you're saying. I think that's a cool way to like what would the SEAL Team 6 of the Last Airbender universe look like, or what would these very, very well trained agents of the government look like? Maybe even after the Korra story, even more into the industrialized, like what would that look like? Or, I don't know. The world is so rife with even in the in between, the world is so rife with all these different like the warriors of Kyoshi, and they're not benders, but
Right.
there's so many different groups that I think it'd be cool to see. Oh man, it'd be a cool movie or just a story that I would love to see told is that secret society was the White Lotus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the origins and the like a
Interesting.
story around them would be really cool too.
I'd watch that.
But I like the idea of just like going to a different corner of the universe that doesn't need to revolve around the Avatar necessarily. That'd be kind of cool. Well, I think that was a pretty good brainstorming session. What was the one that you said you wanted to spin off into its own topic that we should do for like another future episode? Was it the Rocket League one?
Maybe. I mean, I'd like to see the poster for that one.
Yeah.
I think that was my favorite one out of these.
I think that was
pitches,
the best
Yeah.
pitch. Yeah.
Rocket League the anime is chef's kiss. That's a Griff's idea. That's a great idea.
Okay, maybe we'll work on that poster. So if you guys enjoyed this episode, please give us a good review on iTunes. It's always helpful. You can also check out all of our previous projects on our website at letswritepod.com. And you can also follow us on social on Twitter and Instagram at Let's Write Pod, and that's where we'll post things like this anime poster if we actually end up developing it. That's where you can find that. And yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.